never seen such desolation. I think we drove for a mile and there wasn't a building hardly standing.
Nobody knew what was going on. They called the situation fluid, but fluid means that nobody knew anything.
It was different. If I had done something else, I don't know what I would have done.
We're talking today with Tom Friar of Sparta, Michigan, and the interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Okay, now Tom, can you begin with some background on yourself? And to begin with, where and when were you born?
I was born in 1948 in 1948 December in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and lived there all my life until about 10 years ago I moved to Sparta.
Okay. What did your family do for a living when you were growing up?
Well, my mom and dad were divorced, and my mom worked several different odd and end jobs, and we grew up with a family of 5 kids, and we just had a good time growing up in the 50s.
Okay. Now, did you move around a lot?
No,
okay.
No, we stayed there the whole time. So.
Okay. And then where did you go to high school?
I went to Crescent High School. I didn't graduate until I got back out of the service. I had a friend that was I was a freshman, myself and another guy, and a friend of ours, an acquaintance, was drafted when in Vietnam and got killed, and we kind of got upset about it, and so we enlisted in the Army.
Okay. How old were you when you enlisted?
17.
Okay. And did you need your mother's permission to enlist, or how did that work?
I don't remember if I did or not at that time. If I did, she probably reluctantly signed it, but she kind of probably, I was in a lot of trouble off and on, and but just kids growing up, drinking beer and
all right,
having fun.
Okay, so then you enlist. So when do you actually report for service then?
In May of '67, I went down to Fort Knox, Kentucky, for basic training. And
when you were, did you have a physical first and that kind of thing?
Oh yes, yeah. Went down to Detroit, and while in line in Detroit, I enlisted. But there was hundreds of guys that were drafted, and at that time, the Marines were taking a beating, and nobody wanted to enlist in the Marines. And I remember there was this big line, and somebody was counting every third man, you're a Marine. Hey, guys were going crazy, and they counted me as I was in on that. And I said, no. I enlisted. Okay, you go over here then. Mm-hmm. So I got out of the Marines. That was significant at the time.
All right. Now, at the physical, were you aware of anybody, trying to beat the system or get themselves disqualified?
I really didn't notice that. In basic training, I saw some guys, in particular, one that strikes out is in the barracks, and he was, screwed a light bulb and broke it and started eating the glass. Everybody, what the hell? And they took him out, and we never saw him again. So, but other than, some guys just, just really didn't want to be there and just didn't do some of the stuff they were supposed to do. So, mm-hmm. But nothing other than that light bulb thing stands out.
Right. Okay. So you go through, now was the physical particularly thorough, or was it a cursory thing?
I think it was mostly cursory. Nothing special. Checked your heart, checked to see if you had flat feet, I guess. Nothing that stands out to me anyways. That was, really serious.
Sure.
So I don't think anybody back then had if you could walk and talk, I think you were taken.
Yeah. There were some phases in Vietnam where that kind of happened, and other times they were a little more careful. Anyway, that's why we ask, we find out. Mm-hmm. Okay. So from there, then how did they get you down to Fort Knox?
As I recall, we took a train down from Detroit area, and to Fort Knox. And the first time I had ever been on a train. So it was kind of exciting and different. Got sick of it after a couple hours, but, you know, rocking back and forth.
Now, what kind of reception do you get at Fort Knox?
Boy, you're talking 40-some years now. I remember leaving the training. It seems like we got on a bus and going into Fort Knox itself. And then climbing off a bus, probably kind of like the movies you see now. You get out and there's a drill sergeant there. He's a big black guy, and I don't think I've ever seen a bigger guy at that time than this guy. And he had his little hat on, and he didn't take no crap. He was from the Virgin Islands, and he was a tough guy, but he was also fair. And needless to say, I've never done a push-up since I got out of basic training. I said I'll never do them again.
All right. Now, did they have to spend some time processing you before you start the regular training? And what kind of stuff did you do when you got there?
I remember going through haircut, I think. I don't know if that was the first thing, but everybody got that buzz cut. And then got a ton of shots. And I remember different times during basic. But in the very beginning, got a couple of shots. And then we went through like a warehouse, I guess it was. And got uniforms, underwear, and uniform boots, the regular stuff, in a big old duffel bag, and that's about what I can remember of that.
Okay. Did you take any tests there, or had you already done testing earlier? Did you do aptitude tests and things like that?
Seems like I took them before, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
And so.
All right. Now, what did the training itself consist of?
Well, you had learn how to shoot a rifle, throw grenades, a lot of physical training every morning, PT, I guess it was, a lot of running. And different things. Remember going through the CS gas chamber, stuff like that, and I guess regular training, how to, drilling and, just.
Okay. How much emphasis was there on discipline?
I think it was all on discipline. That's like I say, I do push-ups constantly. If you even look cross-eyed, give me 10 or 20 or whatever it was. But I think it was like a game. I mean, you are going to listen to me. I'm not your mom no more, and you're not going to tell me to go screw off or whatever. You're going to do it. And for the most part, I think everybody did. There's a few guys, F you, and did what they want to do. But I didn't see much of that.
Okay. Now, how easy or hard was it for you to adjust to life in the Army?
I think it was pretty hard. I think the discipline, I didn't have much discipline growing up. And so I had, I struggled with that. I was on KP and, of course, push-ups and stuff. And I didn't really get out of that until I got to Vietnam. And that's where I kind of got my shit together. And but I wasn't supposed to be in the infantry either. And that was another story, so I suppose you want to know that one too.
But when you enlisted, did you allowed to select what your MOS would be or whatever?
Yes, I was supposed to be a truck driver. Okay. And so that's what I was going to be. And I asked you first choice where you want to go, and I said Germany, and then Vietnam. So, because I figured I had 3 years, maybe I'd see somewhere else pretty good too, and then end up there. But it's not the way it worked out. So, but at that time, 67, that's when a lot of stuff was going on. So, I think basically I'm assuming anyways, most people went there.
Yeah. Well, they went there, and then that can also affect what specialization you get too. Because if they need people in a certain area, they'll take them regardless of what they promised you.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm going to go back. Okay, you're in basic training. Now, some people report a fair amount of discipline or things happening that were kind of beyond what was supposed to happen. Sergeants punching people or beating them up or those kinds of things. Was that going on when you went through?
I didn't see any of that. For one thing, as big a guy as he was, nobody messed with him. But there's some black guys that did. And I remember once, and I don't want to say some of these black guys would say, crazy nigger or something like that. And then he had the whole company there, and he says, I'm going to tell every one of you assholes one thing right now. I'm not a nigger. I'm from the Virgin Islands. You, and you are the niggers. And that shut everybody out right then and there. I never saw any race stuff when I was there in basic training. I mean, there was a black guy that I bunked next to, and he was in the National Guard. He and a couple other guys were there from the National Guard in basic. And I kind of hung out with those guys a little bit. In fact, one of them, we got a pass for something, I don't remember. And I went home to Toledo or something. I think they were from Toledo for a day or two, and then came back. I guess maybe it was one of the holidays in May, June. I don't remember.
4th of July maybe or something.
It could have been, yeah. But I remember I went home because they weren't very far from Kentucky. And we all got on the bus and we went there and had a good time. It was underage drinking, but, did that for a lot of time.
Okay. Now, were there very many National Guard guys training with you there that you can recall?
In the company I was in, I want to say probably a third of them were. That's approximate, I know.
Yeah. Did the National Guard guys get treated any differently than the rest of you because they were there and they were going back home again?
I don't think they were treated any different. I think maybe some of the guys that were U.S. that were drafted and maybe some of the guys that enlisted like myself may have had some problems with it. I personally didn't because I got along good with them. I mean, hell, they were going through the same thing I was.
Okay. Now, were you in good physical shape when you went in?
Maybe, yeah, I was in pretty good shape. As a kid, we used to run around all the time and stuff, and I was in pretty good shape.
Okay. So the physical part of the training wasn't too tough?
No, the only thing I had trouble was the ladder thing that we had to do. I couldn't get that down very good, but other than that, the running and crawling and climbing and stuff like that.
Well, a lot of people who might be watching this won't have any idea even what the ladder thing was. So can you explain what you were doing?
Oh, I'm not sure what it's really called.
Were you like hanging? Were they over your head?
Yes,
and you were
it's
moving?
like it could have been a ladder. I don't know for all I know, but it's parallel bars, I guess.
Or monkey bars or something like that. They get called sometimes.
You climb up on a couple steps up, and then you got to go across maybe. I have no depth perception here. Maybe 15 foot or something like that.
Yeah, but you're hanging from these things, and you've got to go hand over.
Hand over, yeah.
You're hanging down. You got to move it. Yeah. Okay.
You're swinging around, and if you're good at it, which some guys are, you like a monkey go through it. Mm-hmm. I wasn't like that.
All right, and so while you had some discipline issues, you didn't have anything that was really big or that would get you serious discipline or anything else like that? Okay. No. All right. So how long did the basic training last?
I don't know. I think, 16 weeks or something? I can't remember.
Well, basic is normally 8, and then there's 8 of advanced training after that.
Okay.
Okay. So where did you go next after Fort Knox?
Well,
where did you stay at Fort Knox for
I
AIT?
I had to stay. No, I was supposed to go somewhere, but my orders never came in. And so I was stuck in the same company. And it's actually kind of fun because what had happened there was they didn't know what to do with me because they didn't have no orders. So I stayed right in the barracks, and everybody was gone except one guy. He was a sergeant from the First Cav, and he was in he had some problems, but he was had a supply downstairs. So they said, Friar, you're going down there, and so I worked with him for, I bet you I was probably still there a couple, 3-4 weeks. And then they said, if your orders don't come in, we're going to try and get you here as permanent party. And this guy, this sergeant from First Cav, I wish I could remember his name. He's a really good guy. He treated me really good. And he lived in Elizabethville. I think it's Elizabethville, outside Kentucky. And he'd take me there now and then, and we'd drink beer. And he said to me, he says, Tommy, I don't know why people always call me Tommy all my life, but he said, Tommy, if I could tell you one thing, if you get stuck going to Vietnam, you try to get in the First Cav. He says, because they treat you good. They got all the helicopters in the world, and if it's possible to get food to you, they'll get it to you. And I took that, and I said, okay. And as it was, I ended up in First Cav as a sergeant too. So. Okay,
but the plan to just keep you there as permanent party obviously doesn't happen.
No, my orders came in, and then I was sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and that's where AIT for a truck driver. And I took basic training or AIT training there, and I don't remember a whole lot of that other than driving a damn truck and cleaning them and this and that.
What kind of truck were you driving?
At most of the time, it was deuce and a half, but it was up to kind of like semis too. But I didn't do too much of that. It was mostly the smaller and Jeeps and like the old ambulance trucks and stuff like that. And met a Chinese guy there from New York. Chan was his name. And he and I hung out, and because I left everybody else, nobody else that I went through basic training, they were all 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead of me. So, and I met this kid, and on a weekend pass, he took me to New York City. And he lived there, and took me to where he lived, stayed at his house, and took me to Chinatown. What an awakening for a 17-year-old kid. And
yeah, you weren't in Grand Rapids anymore.
No. I mean, it's like cross every street, somebody wants to sell you their body. And it was like the proverbial open your coat and you could buy watches, anything. God, I'd never seen that, for Grand Rapids 17-year-old kids. So that was a growing up experience too.
All right. So when you finished the time at Fort Dix, you finished that training. Have they told you where you're going to go or what you're going to do next?
Yeah, I was had orders for Vietnam, and I got to leave. I think it was for, I want to say 30 days, but I don't know if it was 30 days.
30 days was a standard length at that point. Sometimes that it wound up being less or whatever, but 30 days is pretty likely.
Yeah. I think that's it's probably what it was then, because I didn't take any other leave, a weekend pass or a couple of day passes, so up until that time. So.
Okay, 30, and then from home now, do you head straight out to Vietnam, or how does that work?
Well, I went from home to Seattle, Tacoma, Seattle, and that's where we flew out of there. To Vietnam. I think we went via Alaska, Japan.
Yeah, that was one of the standard routes.
Yeah.
If you went out of Seattle, you usually took the northern route to go that way.
Yeah.
Okay, and then where did you land in Vietnam?
Cam Ranh Bay.
Okay, and when did you arrive there?
November, it was, I want to say 13th, 12th, 13th, something like. It was before Thanksgiving. It was right around the 12th or 13th of November.
Okay, so November '67. Okay, all right. Now, What was your first impression of Vietnam when you got there?
Hotter than hell. And they had a smell, a certain smell to it. And I don't think I'll ever forget that smell. It was like the whole country, we went all across the country as it was, and a certain smell, I don't know what it was. And hot and muggy.
Did you land during the day or at night?
That's good. I think it was morning, early mid-morning or something like that.
And you got off the plane, what do they do with you?
Well, there too, I think as I recall, we all got on a bus again and taxied over to a bunch of billets set up. And we were assigned a certain, you had to get up. They had like a big parade ground, and everybody, certain times a day, I don't know, 2-3 times a day, you had to report there, and they'd call your name off and tell you. Then they'd say, okay, here you're going here, there, wherever. And at that time, I don't recall what I did exactly, but somehow I finagled my way into getting into the first Cav. And I was at Cam Ranh Bay for, I think, 2 days. And the first night there, I pulled guard duty. I still remember this. Here we're in a war zone. They give you, at that time it was an M14. They gave you 3 bullets. I said, what the hell are you supposed to do with 3 bullets? And there's a bunch of us. I recall, I don't know their names now, but in this bunker, we're all scared shitless. You know, you don't know what the heck's going on. But 3 bullets, what the hell? I guess it's for me, you, and you, I guess, if there's a bunch of them coming. But that struck me as weird.
Well, were you actually on the kind of exterior perimeter, or were you inside the base somewhere on guard duty?
I don't remember now. I would hate to think it was on the perimeter, you know, with 3 bullets, but that's what we were assigned, given a helmet, a flak jacket, M14 and 3 bullets. It seems like, for some reason, it might not even be true, I don't know. But that's what it seems like I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a big base, and particularly if you were somewhere in the interior of it, then they really didn't expect it to need any bullets. So
yeah, but
all right, but then at some point, now a couple of days, now you get your orders, and they say First Cav.
Yep.
Okay, so now where were they when you joined them?
they were in An Khê. Mm-hmm. It's kind of in the Central Highlands there. And I remember getting on a C, I don't know if it was a C-130 or C-123, one of the two, mm-hmm. and flying into An Khê base. And I remember they called it Monkey Mountain, I think it was. Big mountain, had a huge First Cav patch painted on it. And that was my first sight that I saw there. And then I remember there was like maybe 7-day in-country training thing that we had to do. And we had because I was trained as a truck driver, so I had no infantry training to speak of. And so we had to rappel off this big ass tower, and oh my God, I just could not see myself doing that. But I remember going down there and somehow ended up upside down going down and looking upside down at the sergeant. You're an idiot. Get up there and do it right. I climbed back up there, and then I finally did it, and then I was okay from that. But he looked at me from here, you're an idiot.
All right. Now, in this sort of week-long training course, did you now fire an M16?
Yeah, that was the first time I fired an M16 there. And in fact, I never saw, after I left Cam Ranh Bay, I never saw M14 again. And, or not, I've seen them, but not handled.
Never had to use one, yeah. Okay. Now, what else was included in the training? You're rappelling, that's learning how to go out of helicopters, I guess, and then the
They had
basic
some-
weapons.
Yeah, I guess throw a couple grenades. We had to do a little, kind of like a patrol, I think, in I know it was a secure area, but you're still very, nervous. And, but that's, in pulling guard duty, we had to pull guard duty all the time. But I don't remember much more of the training, other than that repelling. That kind of indelled in my mind.
Do you think they tried to teach you anything about Vietnam or the society or how to behave while you're there?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think that was classroom stuff, and going through the money. I never even thought of that until you brought that up. But yeah, to treat them like respect because you're in their country, and don't shoot their water buffaloes, don't do this and do that, and just treat them like you're a guest in their country. Okay.
And did you get warned about VD and things like that?
Oh yeah. It's funny too because An Khê, I don't know if I should even bring that up, but An Khê, right outside An Khê, and there's a little village of An Khê, and inside that village is like another little village. It's called Sin City, and it's U-shaped. I remember it's all bars and whorehouses.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I spent my 18th birthday. I got a day pass from our CEO, and I had a great 18th birthday. And then the CEO wasn't real happy because this was after my in-country training, because the MPs brought me back. And but it was a memorable 18th birthday.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how long did you stay at An Khê?
Oh. Well, I want to say in January, until January, because I'm almost positive I spent Christmas there. And I remember I was assigned to this company, S4. I was in S4 at the time. And C Company, they had like a listening post or some post outside the wire, and they got attacked. And it's too close to take helicopters, and so they sent 4 of us truck drivers in 4 trucks, and C Company. And I remember I was in the lead truck, and there was a guy, Top Fowler. He was a first sergeant in C Company. He later got killed and up by Quezon, but I remember him telling me, "Just do as I say. If we start getting shot at," he says, "stop the truck immediately, turn it off, and get your ass out of the truck." I don't know. I'd only been in country maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that. And I said, "Okay," and we got so far, and then there's some shooting going on, and I'm looking around, and he says, "Out now," and I got my belt hooked. I had like a issued belt hooked on something on the truck when I went to jump, and I couldn't get off there. And he comes running around there, and he with his survival knife, he cuts it in it too. And I fall, and I look around, and then it was over. Mm-hmm. Just that quick, everything was over. And I got with the other truck drivers, and we're looking at these trucks. As much shooting and shit that was going on, there wasn't one bullet hole or nothing. I said, "This can't be that bad. Those guys are bad shots." So, well, needless to say that we had fun with that. But,
now, at this point, were you assigned to you were in a battalion, but were you still a truck driver at that point?
Yes, I was assigned to S4 company. I think it was S4, just a supply.
Okay, supply company. And is this at the division, regiment, battalion level, or?
Company.
Okay.
Company.
Well, you're a company, but are you?
Battalion level. So, and what we did is, we drove the trucks, and they had these mules, they're called these things, and we would shuttle a lot, the supplies as the supplies came in, whether it be ammo or whatever, and we'd take them to different companies that needed it, and load helicopters for supply that was being sent out and stuff like that. And we also did, I think there was some mail. When the mail came in, somebody would sort it, and we'd make sure it got on the right helicopters and stuff like that.
Okay. Now, what was your parent unit that you were attached to? Which battalion of the?
First Air Cav, 1st of the 5th.
Okay. 1st Battalion, 5th Regiment then?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you're out on K for a while, and basically you're doing that supply duty, basically, and driving and that kind of thing. And then sometime in January you move? Where
It seems like it was January.
That fits the division's chronology. Yeah. So where did you go?
We convoyed, and again, C Company was on our trucks, and we convoyed. There was a huge convoy, and it seems that it was Highway 1. We went up through Phu Way, Da Nang. We were going to Quảng Trị, and that's where we finally ended up. And on the way up there, in one of those villages, it's kind of strange how you go through these villages. You go slow, and the people and the kids are running in and out, and guys were throwing some sea rations and or some candy to the kids. And I hit a little kid on a bicycle, and I didn't kill him, but he got kind of screwed up a little bit, I guess. Broken. I don't know exactly what happened, but from that time on, I finished that convoy, but from that time on, I guess the Army figured that I wasn't really meant out to be a truck driver. So I thought, well, I wonder what the hell's going to happen now. And then they assigned me to an infantry out company. And then that's when I was with, I was hoping I'd be with C Company anyways, if I had to, because I knew at least the first sergeant. And but I was assigned to A Company, the 1st of the 5th, and that's where, and it was a good company. Like I said, I had no infantry training, and fairly new to country, a couple months, and 18, and there was a guy, Carly Gunther was his name. He's from Minnesota. Nice, he was an older guy, but everybody was older to me then.
So he could have been like 20 or something. Or
yeah, but he was a little older. He had, I think, 2 kids, and he kind of took me. He was a sergeant, and he took me under his arm and kind of, because I didn't, and he helped me a lot, and so I stayed with him, and then, I did a lot of liaison work between supply and stuff, and a lot of radio communications and stuff like that. And they kind of kept me back, not. How can I say?
They got you oriented, basically, learning how the unit works and what goes on.
Right. And so mostly, I figured, well, you used to work in supply, so you're going to be our contact with that. If we need something, you're going to get your butt on the radio. So that's basically most of what I did. And but it was altogether different animal, out there on the field.
Okay. Now, what were you on a base when you got up there, or what kind of setup did they have?
Well, when we got there at Quảng Trị, they had it was a beach area. It's called Wonder Beach, and we had to secure that, and then keep patrolling it all the time, because the Navy was bringing these huge amphibious. I've never seen anything so big, and floating, and then it would go right onto the ground. Huge things, and they would bring supplies. So we had to secure that whole Wonder Beach area for quite a while. We did that, and we were there through the Tet up there in Quảng Trị, and I recall what a bitch it was walking in the sand. It was beautiful beach, but it wasn't real friendly. And
Now, the Tet Offensive starts kind of January 30th, 31st, so not long after you've gotten up there.
Right.
Did your base get attacked when that started, or was it quiet where you were?
there was, we had an air assault in a couple areas where they were, but the Wonder Beach itself, I don't remember them being attacked, like that. But in the town of Quảng Trị, it was kind of bad. And there were some of our companies, I don't remember which ones, but we would have to air assault into certain areas to help out another company in this and that. But it wasn't real fun.
Okay. And when they were doing the air assaults, were you going with them now?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And what was it like doing that for the first time, or do you remember that at all?
Oh, I remember it exactly. Yeah, it's. I don't know how you really explain it. A lot of fear, and I don't remember how many air assaults I went on with those guys. But most of them were quiet LZs, Maybe a couple now and then would be hot, but
Well, when the call came to go out and do one of these things, what happens? How do they organize the company to go and launch them on a mission
Well,
like that?
I remember we'd all we'd get our stuff, our packs, our rucksacks, and ammos issued out, everything that you would need, grenades. Everybody carried a bunch of 60 caliber, and we all carried at least one motor round. And then we just kind of wait for the helicopters to come in. They'd come in, as I recall, 6, 7 guys maybe get on a bird at a time and go out and do your thing. It was kind of exciting riding the helicopters. To this day, I'd love to do it again, but especially under certain different circumstances. But it was very frightening. I won't say I ever got used to it, but I remember that the intensity wasn't as bad, in my mind, that I just kind of knew what I had to do, type of thing.
Now, what was the terrain like in that area?
That area there's a lot of sand all over. Not a lot of trees, but kind of, I would say, kind of coastal type thing. I don't remember a whole lot there because we didn't do a whole lot of air assaults up there. It was mostly when we went up to Quezon area.
Okay.
And there too wasn't a lot of air assaults, but it was a lot of walking, and that was like a jungle then, and that was bad up in there.
Okay. Do you have a sense of about how long you spent at Quảng Trị? Like 3
It doesn't
months or
seem.
4? Or?
Oh no, it wasn't nowhere that long. I don't know, maybe a month and a half. It seems like.
All right.
And then there was different camps, if that long, because then we went to there were different base camps. I think Camp Evans was one, and there was a Camp Jane. I'm not.
Okay, but you're moving around still in the area that's kind of between Quảng Trị and Hue, basically, kind of up in the northern coastal area, different bases. Okay. All right. Now, did you have much information on kind of what was going on in the larger war at that point? I mean, did you know about the fighting in Hue and that kind of thing, or the siege of Quezon?
We had heard about it some. But not. We knew it was, a lot was going on all through the country. But I remember when we were going up there, going through Hue, and it was a beautiful, beautiful old. I mean, it was just like you would see in a movie or museum. It was beautiful town. And then I know several months later, I was coming back through because I was coming out of a hospital somewhere, and rode through there and look around at the devastation of that town. I was just heartbroken. I thought, oh my God, what a historical thing, just it's in rubble. But we hung around in there a lot, up in that, I would say between Quảng Trị and Khe Sanh area until, I remember LZPs, that's where I got that concussion. That was during that Pegasus thing.
Okay. Can you explain what Operation Pegasus was?
What I remember and what I remember being told was that the Marines were in Khe Sanh. They were surrounded and stuff, and we had to go in and from outside and work our way to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And never dreamt that it would be anything like at all what it was. And there was one of our companies said he heard tracks. And everybody said, we don't have no tanks up here. No. This was on the radio because I was on the radio. And he says, no, this isn't our tracks. They heard them. Now, I don't know if they saw them or not. And that was C Company. That was in April, I think it was, when we were up in there. And in May 3rd or 4th at Peanuts is when we got hit pretty bad. We almost got overrun. And Top Fowler, that Sergeant Top Fowler got killed there. And I think it was May 3rd.
Okay. Now, can you, before that, and this is that with LZ Peanuts, was that you said, or?
Yes.
Okay. How much actual fighting was your company in before that?
Oh, well, it wasn't 24/7 or anything like that. It was off and on. It would be, a lot of it was pulling patrols, and you'd always run into them. And I don't know how much it was.
Well, would they be relatively short firefights?
Yes, yeah, they were maybe an hour, at the most hour or something like that. Because we had pretty good air coverage, you know, and artillery coverage, so.
So the enemy would find you, and then it gets too dangerous for them, and they go away.
Well, they would let it be known that they were there. We lost quite a few guys, though, up in there then. And
Now, when you were patrolling, would it be platoons going together, or would it be at squad level, or?
well, it was almost all, at minimum was platoon. And you weren't very far from the company.
Right.
Yeah. Especially up there, it was never, a lot of times it was the whole company, you know.
Now, when you went out, would you carry a radio, or were you just carrying the M16, or?
Well, for most of the time, when I first got in, I was carrying a radio. And then I had an M16 and a 45. And a ton of batteries. Those batteries didn't last real long. The radio was called, I think, a Prick 25 or something like that. Heavier than hell. And I wasn't real big. And so, plus you're always carrying some 60 caliber stuff too. But yeah, that's basically what you know.
Okay, but you weren't having to walk point or things like that.
No, I never had. I never walked point. No, I'm glad I didn't. But so.
Okay, and how well do you think that the men in your company were performing at that time? Did they know their jobs and do them pretty well?
Yeah. As far as, for the most part, we all lived, so I knew we were doing our job pretty good. And none of the officers or anybody bitched at us or anything. I know some people will say, well, a lot of the guys didn't follow orders. I never saw that. Everybody, I mean, they may question it, why do you want me to charge that? Or why do you want me to do that? But ultimately it got done. But I never saw, I never saw anybody disobey an order. I did not do anything.
Well, in general, were the officers ones where they seemed to know what they were doing and gave you sensible orders rather than crazy ones?
Right, yeah. Sometimes you get a new lieutenant in, or, I think captain now and then went through. I think they change every 6 months or something like that. And so then, but a lot, they were, the second lieutenants, I think, there was a couple of them kind of were off the wall. But,
Well, if that, would the sergeants keep them in line, or would the
yeah. Because the CEO would sit down. He would, because I was by him a lot, because being an RTO, and he would sit them guys down when they first came in and tell them, this is, you don't know shit. You just do what these guys tell you, even if they are sergeants or even a corporal or whatever. They've been here for a while. You just learn from them, and for the most part they did.
Okay. So you had good captains.
Oh yeah, yeah. Even when I was in S4, I had a good captain, and he ended up as a company leader too in the infantry. So it's kind of like a rotation. Everybody did their thing.
Now talk about that event, LZ Peanuts, when that gets attacked and you get hurt. So what happened that night?
Well, it was a pretty good size base. We had to secure that. We air assaulted into that and just kind of cleared it out. And it wasn't no big deal then. And then they brought some artillery in. I think it's 105 Hausers, the smaller cannons.
Yeah.
There was, 4 or 5 of them. LZ Peanuts was shaped like a peanut. I guess that's what they called it, like that. And down on this side was where the artillery was. Those howitzers were set up, and we had bunkers all around. We made bunkers, and we had a CP up over here. And we're getting incoming all the time, rockets and mortars, mostly rockets. And at one time, I was up in the CP, and I always had to unload the helicopters. And I kind of liked it because a lot of those guys would come out and throw the stuff off, and I knew them. So I'd say hey to them and stuff, And me and another guy got stuck with me too, JT Hallman. He was out there with me. And a rocket came in, followed a helicopter, and that's where I got my concussion. But it didn't go to the hospital then. It broke my eardrum because I couldn't hear any of the little blood out of there. And he said, "Oh, you'll be all right." They just put some cotton in my ear. And you won't be able to hear for a while out of that ear. And now I got tinnitus in that ear. But anyways, a rocket, after that, this is it's either May 3rd, or May 4th or May 5th. It was right after Top Follower got killed. Everybody was down. I was really feeling bad because I really liked him. He helped me, and I saw him a couple of times, and I was really feeling bad. But a rocket came in and caught one of the ammo dumps. Got them, and that shit was going and burning. And so what they ended up having to do is pull back. We had to evacuate that area because we couldn't control nothing. So everybody pulled back, and I remember a lot of those artillery guys left their guns and everything in the damn bunkers when they came. And we ended up there was some, it was May 4th. And some sappers got on the wires that night. And a lot of them came through that area where we evacuated. And the artillery had a Jeep that they drove on. I don't know how in the hell they got it out there. The air, but that's what when their ammo came in, that's what they used the Jeep to go out, and bring it down to their area. That thing got blown to hell up there, pretty close, about right where the peanut.
So basically, were you now occupying one half of the peanut rather than the whole peanut?
I'd say, yeah. Yeah, I got a half a pita here. Yeah, maybe a little bit more than half. And there's a huge bomb crater, I guess from a 2,000 pound bomb. I don't know what it was. That was there all the time. And a lot of us, I was in that, and we were getting fired on from the bunkers that we evacuated area. And a lot of it was M16s coming at us. So that's when a lot of guys got pissed off, you know, from the artillery guys. And but that was a pretty bad night. I had to call in emergency resupply of ammo. They couldn't land, so they had it on a sling. And I remember when I was in S42, somebody had that. And everybody back in the area filled the magazine, because you don't have time to fill magazines when you're getting that. And they were filling magazines like a raped ape, you know. And all those would come out, and they came in, and they just drop it, get as close as they could, because there was a lot of shit going on there. That was bad. And that damn thing, that sling, they popped a smoke, and shit, it was from me to the doorway, 20 foot. Damn near killed me. You know, it came in, and then shit just flew. And so then I had to start going around and passing. I was kind of the gopher type. And so I was handing out ammunition to everybody, and probably I was getting towards dawn.
Now, was there still shooting going on at that
Oh
point?
yeah, the whole time. Yeah, the whole night. Well, I would say probably sometime after midnight, probably 2 o'clock, it started. We had, we went out gooks in the wire, and then a couple of trip flares go off, and then our illumination, we sent up illumination.
Did the sappers get into your part of the base, or were they mostly on the other part of it?
They got real close to us, inside the other base. Yeah, yeah, they were real close. That from where the CP was set up, that Jeep was maybe 30, maybe 50 yards from there, and there was a bunch of them behind that. And the next day there was a lot of, and there wasn't that Jeep. There wasn't an inch, half-inch area where there wasn't holes all over, from shrapnel, from bullets, and there was quite a few dead ones behind there. And there was quite a few of them all over, but I remember just kind of piled up behind that Jeep, and I thought, oh, Jesus. But that's how close they got to the CP, though. In that big bunker where we were, myself and that other guy, there's a couple of us in there. Shit, that was real close to that. And, but.
Okay. But by dawn, basically, the fighting is over, and they left. And
well, just before dawn, yeah.
Okay. And so now, did you stay at that place much longer, or did they move you out after that?
They moved us out after that. We lost quite a few guys. That Carly, he got killed that night there, and I was devastated. And
did they take you out of the field for a little while after that?
yeah, well, couldn't go very far. To be truthful with you, I don't remember a whole heck of a lot out of that right after that, because I had that concussion thing going on, and I don't really. There's a time period from that moment until I guess we were leaving Quezon area that I just kind of, there's a blank.
Okay.
And then we kind of started working our way, I think, south.
Yeah, because the division was moving into the Aisha Valley, which was south of there.
Yeah.
That and along the sides of it and that kind of thing. And they're setting up, there were fire bases being set up, and some people are going down the middle of the valley and looking for things.
I remember landing at from a helicopter, landing at a firebase, it was these 8 inchers. I had never been close to those 8 inchers, and those are big. And shit, you try to, those things go off. Oh my God, it's ground shook. And we were there for a couple of days, and but that almost seems like it seemed like a plateau or something.
Well, 8-inch howitzers, no, these were self-propelled, weren't they? I mean, self-propelled guns, so they were on like tank chassis.
Oh no, these were regular.
They're just guns. Okay, because because the self-propelled ones couldn't get up into the A-shaw, but you could still use a helicopter to bring.
Yeah,
them
that's
in.
what they. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had to secure that for a while, and that's my first recollection after Penis. I don't remember a whole lot after Penis. I can't explain why, but it is what it is. And I remember landing at an air base or a fire base where those 8 inchers were, and it was kind of out in the open. It wasn't no woods or nothing. And then one of the companies walked into an ambush not long after, maybe a day or so after that. I couldn't tell you where. I know it was in the Ashaw Valley because that's where we were going, but I don't remember any of the names of anything.
Right.
I kind of don't remember a whole lot right directly after Peanuts for some reason.
And so you have a vague sense, okay, you're in the A-shaw, you're doing some of this stuff. Now, for the most part, were you staying on the fire bases, or were you going out with the guys on patrols?
I was kind of back and forth. You know, mostly I was out with the guys a lot because the losses were piling up pretty bad, and so. But I spent a lot of time out there with them, and as it was, I'd rather be out there than, you know, with people that knew what the hell was going on and with guys that didn't. But I still had some friends, you know, back in the rear area too that stayed in contact with us, especially when we'd rotate a little bit, we'd go back. I remember a couple of times they would have time there where they would have these, we'd go back to a bigger rear area.
So a stand down, basically?
Kind of, yeah. You'd pull perimeter guard around this, but it's a big base. And we were always told that you could have 2 beverages a day. It could be 2 beers, 2 pops, or a beer and a pop. But we couldn't get it out there, so they saved it for it. And then our CO, when we went back to that, somehow they always had these dehydrated steaks, and we had a big party. And the other company, before they were left, we would go back and we'd have at least one night where we could just, you know, we had those, this is like a big picnic party, steaks and shit, as much beer or pop or whatever you wanted to drink as you could drink in these big old garbage cans with ice in it. That all this ice had rice. I don't know where the hell they got the ice from, but I remember those. There was a couple times we did that. That was fun.
Now, how long did this sort of pattern go on? If you're kind of in that A-shaw, did that operation end at some point, or did you go someplace else, or get sick, or something happened?
Yeah.
What changes that pattern?
I know. See, that's what I can't hardly think of that, because from May until then the next December, I guess it was just kind of so routine that I don't really remember. Just we're in that Ashaw Valley area, and then gosh, I think I'm like a dumbass for not remembering a lot of that stuff, but it was so routine. I don't remember a lot of it. And then I remember, for one thing, I extended, and I wanted to get out of the field completely.
Okay.
And so they say if you extend, you can get your choice when you come back where you want to do. But I wanted to work back in the supply to S4 where I was, because I still wanted to help support the guys. So
when did you decide to extend? Or
I'd say it was November or something like that.
Because you would have been due to rotate out in November if you got there the November before.
I think it was then, because I was home for Christmas of '68.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was home when I got orders that I made sergeant. They mailed that stuff to my home, which I was kind of shocked. And but then I left right after Christmas, probably. I know I spent New Year's Eve in Tacoma, and that's where I went out from again.
Now, to backtrack a little bit, do you remember anything about that trip home on leave? I mean, how they get you out there, or if you saw any protesters in the airport or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Well, I left the field. I can't remember what date it was, but anyway, and flew back in a helicopter to An Khê. And we got our stuff there. That's where we left all our
Right.
person that you couldn't take with
Right.
you. So I got that and got some, got out of our fatigues, and then some tans, a dress, not the greens, but the,
Yeah.
khaki. And then going to, time I came home, I know the second time, Benoit. I might have went back to Cam Ranh Bay and flew back out of there.
That's quite possible.
Yeah, and then came in by Fort Ord, California, and there was protesters all over, and I didn't pay much attention to them. I didn't give a shit.
Did you stay in your uniform, or did you change
Yeah,
clothes?
I stayed in my uniform.
And what was it like to go home? You've been in Vietnam for a year.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. I met a guy in California. He was going to somewhere. I had to go through Chicago and then catch a flight. And we were in the airport together. He was 21, and so he bought a bottle, and we were sipping it on the plane even. And from Fort Ord. I really didn't pay much attention to those guys, the protesters and stuff. And I wasn't going to get out of my uniform. I know some guy. Second time I did, but anyways, we got to Chicago, and we both missed our flight. He was going on to, I don't know, I don't
Somewhere
remember,
else.
yeah. And we both missed our flight, so we had to spend the night in the Chicago airport. Didn't have a whole lot of money. Well, I had a lot, but it was, I can't remember if it was.
Did you have military script, or what?
Yeah.
Normally they would change that for you when you
Yeah.
leave.
Because what I did is I saved all my money when I was in Vietnam, and I wanted to buy a car when I got home. And so, but anyways, we were in Chicago. I don't remember. And we had some money, but I didn't want to spend it for a hotel.
Right.
So shit. I think the flight was like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. So we were just sitting there, and there was a bar in the airport. I said, well, let's go. I says, I won't be able to get served, but you never know. So we go in there, and they served me. I couldn't believe it. I was still 18. And but then we were sitting there, and we got something to eat, a hamburger and a couple of beers we were drinking. And we go to pay, and they were closing up, and we were just kind of killing time. And we go to pay, and he said, oh, no, it was all paid for. I said, what do you mean? He says, the guy paid for it. He lost a nephew in Vietnam. I'm sorry.
That's okay. But it sort of balances the protester thing, though.
Yeah.
There were people who still appreciated what you were doing.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when you got home, was it hard to connect with people?
Yeah. I didn't really see a lot of the guys I used to hang around with much. I kind of had my mindset that I wanted to get a car. And I had, back then you could buy cars pretty good, pretty cheap. So I bought this 1967 Firebird 400, faster than a streak of shot. And I had $2,700 for saved up because there's no place to really spend the money. I did go on R&R, but spent a couple $100. That was another thing in Bangkok. 18-year-old kid in Bangkok.
Okay.
But so and my brother had a co-sign for $300 for it, and he did, and so I drove that for 20-some 30 days, whatever my leave was, and had no fear. That was in the days where you could go downtown and you just up and down the circuit, back and forth. And
Did you get any tickets?
no, I never got any tickets, but
Because a car like that would kind of invite them. But
yeah, I never got caught, I guess is what it was. I remember racing a Corvette going down Plainfield Avenue from downtown. And are you familiar with the city? You know where Colebrook is? Where there's a little curve there that goes up on Plainfield. And I don't know if it was stupidity or just really fear didn't, I lived through Vietnam. I mean, I'm not going to die here. But we were going over 100 miles an hour racing down there. And I thought, well, my young brother was with me. I said, well, Nick, you better fasten that up. He says, I ain't going to stop. And see whoever would stop would probably, lose the race. So, but he slowed down. The Corvette slowed down, and I kept going. And my brother was so pissed at me, So, but I don't know. It was kind of weird. I just didn't have any fear.
Okay.
Yeah.
But when that leave comes to an end, what's it like going back out to Vietnam again?
It was hard. It was difficult, but I felt kind of good because I had some sergeant stripes that I got pinned on there, and it was a little bit different in a way that I got out to Tacoma, and I kind of farted around there. I wanted to see the sights. There's not much to see because it's always raining, at least when I was there. But not really AWOL, I guess. I missed the flight leaving, and so I stayed another night, got pretty drunk with another guy I met there. He was heading back too, and so I just kind of thought, well, we've done this before. We can take an extra day or two. And so I got back kind of late. Took the next day, we got a flight out, and but it was kind of hard. Flew back into Cam Ranh Bay again, and of course I had orders, so I didn't have to go all through that. Next day, I guess, I spent the night there, and then flew up to. Actually, didn't fly to An Khê at all. Went right to Tây Ninh.
Okay. Now, for people who don't know, I mean, you had been, An Khê is kind of in the middle of the country, essentially. Quảng Trị and all of that was up north. Now, where is Tây Ninh?
As far as I can remember, it's over along the Cambodia border.
It's kind of west of Saigon.
Yeah, west of Saigon. I don't know, what was it about? Lower part of Vietnam.
Yeah, third corps, three corps was the general area, that Saigon chunk of it,
Yeah. And we worked out of there for and mostly though, I did get what I was supposed to do. They did try to send me out there because as soon as I got back, they said, we really need you out there, Tommy. And I said, well, I'm not going to do it. And so things had changed quite a bit. And but I ended up going back and forth a little bit, and then I was really kind of rebellious about it too, and it kind of pissed me off because I didn't want to go out the field again, and but they needed me, and I still didn't want to go because most of the guys were gone. A lot of guys got killed again, even that short period that I was gone, and then in D-Roast or
they rotate home.
They rotate home. And so there wasn't a whole lot of guys out there, but I still wanted to do it. And the old CEO was still there. He had a couple of months to do yet. And he was the one that really wanted me out there. And so he got kind of pissed at me. But, what are you going to do? So then they tried to make me go out, and then I started bitching about it, and I filed some papers, and I don't remember exactly what it was, to go home, period, because you didn't stand by your contract with me and this and that. And that was as long as it was. It took forever to get out of there. So, but I stayed until May. I stayed my whole
Now,
second
did you
tour.
spend most of your time on fire bases then?
Yeah, it was a fire base in Tây Ninh. It was a pretty good sized fire base.
What was the division headquarters there, or?
I'm not positive if it was there. It could have been in Benoit. I don't know.
We might have had a rear area in Benoit anyway, but.
Yeah, Benoit was a big air base, and I remember went on R&R myself and another guy, and we came back and we didn't want to go to our company yet, so we were kind of just driving around Benoit. We flew back into Benoit and just kind of going around, and got one of the NCO clubs there and stuff. It came out and there was a Jeep sitting there, nobody around. So the other guy said, let's take that Jeep. So we were bar hopping in Benoit, drunker and shit. And there was a Filipino base there. And we stopped by that. There was a bar. We came out and they said, you guys want to sell that Jeep? What? And that's a long story too. But it started.
Well, did you sell the Jeep?
No, we tried to, and we wanted to. I don't know. I guess I shouldn't even say that. But we ended up trading. That is what we ended up doing. And they gave us a ride back to our base for a bunch of beer, San Miguel beer. We got 2 pallets of San Miguel beer for that Jeep. And we were AWOL coming back. So the CEO thought, well, I got you now. And I said, yeah, but what do you want us to do with all this beer? Well, what beer? There's the Filipinos, they brought a deuce and a half full of 2 pallets of beer. Well, right here, we got this for the... Where the hell? I don't know, sir. We just found it. It's here for the company. And so nothing happened. They were going to give us Article 15 for being late. And earlier in my tour, when we were up at Wonder Beach, you get a day off now and then. And what they would do, they'd take a couple guys out on a Navy ship when one of those big amphibious things come in. They drop, and 3 or 4 guys could go out and spend a day on a Navy ship. I did that one time, and that was fun. I mean, you talk about good food the Navy had, holy crap. And then another time, me and another guy fell asleep on our air mattresses on a surfing. We were body surfing, and we had these air mattresses. I fell asleep, and I got sunburned terrible. And I got Article 15 for that, destroying government property.
There you go.
I thought, holy crap. Because I couldn't go out the field for a couple of days until the blisters and stuff went down.
All right. So in those last months when you're back there, I mean, what were you actually doing in terms of duty?
In Tây Ninh?
Yeah.
I was loading helicopters and stuff like that, talking to their radio operator. They would call me and communicate there. All the companies, not just the company that I was in.
Right.
And, I just kind of, because I was a sergeant then, and I was just making stuff happen. Making sure they got everything that they needed and stuff, and a lot of times too, guys that got wounded or something would come back and they couldn't go out in the field for a while, whatever it was. They would work in S4 too, so we were all kind of, making sure those guys, mostly their company, was getting, whatever they could. And but I was doing it for, all 4 companies.
Okay.
And I think at that time, somewhere in there, there was another base, go back before we went to Tây Ninh, where I went to in-country R&R. I can't remember the base. Maybe it was a pretty good-sized base. I went to in-country R&R.
Was it along the coast somewhere, or was it inland?
No, it was inland.
You keep your hand off the microphone.
Oh. The infantry R&R was on the coast. Yes, it was Vung Tau or something like that. But I can't remember where the base camp was. It might have been somewhere like you were saying, that somewhere in the Ashaw Valley area. But I
Well, it
don't.
wouldn't be. You wouldn't do R&R in the Ashaw. I mean.
No.
Yeah.
But I went from there to
Yeah.
that R&R thing,
Okay.
and then came back to that. It was a pretty good sized base. They had Dusenhass. In fact, that's the first time I ever shot a 50 caliber. They had a quad. Was it quad or?
Yeah. Well, they had quads and they had twins.
Twins,
So, yeah.
twins. That's what I shot, was a twin. I always wanted to shoot one of them things, and one night they had on these back bases, they had like a mad minute, so everybody that didn't fire their weapons could go out and test them. So, and I traded something. I think it was a belt buckle, North Vietnamese belt buckle, to this. I don't know if it was a Navy or CB that had twin 50s, but they had that set up there, and I wanted to shoot that, so I traded. He let me shoot it, so I shot the shit out of that. That was fun. Loud as hell.
Now, you'd mentioned somewhere along that you'd gotten malaria.
Yeah.
At what point did you come down with that? How far into your tour?
It was there. That's one of the, between Quảng Trị.
So it was before you went home. So before,
Oh, yeah,
before
it
the
was.
leave, yeah.
I'm trying to think now, because that might have been before we went to, it's before we went up to Peanuts. It was between Wonder Beach
Okay.
and when that Pegasus
Yeah.
thing started. Somewhere in there. I'm not sure. I don't know the dates.
Okay. Did you have to go to a hospital for that? Or
Yeah, they sent me down to a hospital, and they put me packed me in ice and put me in a helicopter and went straight up for quite high, and bringing my temperature down, came down. A couple of days in, they set me back up.
Okay.
So
And would that recur afterward, or did it?
they said that you could have it, and they told me too when I got out of the service that you're never going to be able to get blood or anything because it's always there. And I said, really? But now I don't know if it is true or not. I've never tried because I don't want to screw somebody else up.
Right. But in the meantime, you haven't had any recurrences of it since then. Okay.
I may have, but it's.
If you had it bad, you'd know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was kind of like the flu or something like that. Yeah. But no, I never had any reoccurrence of that.
Okay. Now, you're in the Army and you're in Vietnam in a period when there was a lot of stuff going on at home. I mean, you'd had King assassination, Kennedy assassination, all the rioting and stuff in '68. How much of that filtered over to Vietnam, or did it affect the way anybody behaved by the time you left?
I don't remember a lot of that. I really didn't pay that much attention to it. I mean, the only newspaper, well, at one time my grandmother, she sent me a subscription to the Grand Rapids Press. I told her one time in a letter at home, I told her that I missed reading the Grand Rapids Press, so she got me a subscription. And I just couldn't keep up. I mean, I'd get these bags of paper, and they'd dump them out, and they're pissed off hauling these. Friar, Jesus, what are you? So I had to call her and tell her to. But everybody read the Grand Rapids Press, the whole company. And,
Yeah. Something to read.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I don't remember that. I know like Kennedy got assassinated and stuff, but mostly I was young too. I was 18. I didn't really give a crap about.
Well, I mean, did the sort of the attitude or the conduct of the black soldiers change at all over the course of time?
Well, I think more guys started smoking a wacky tobacco and stuff like that, and I think maybe in the rear areas, I noticed that when we'd come back into the rear areas, I noticed maybe there's the blacks would hang here or something like it, but I never saw any of that out in the field or nothing. I never, and even in the rear area,
It wasn't really creating any kind of larger problems that you were seeing.
Not that I saw, no.
Okay. And then the drug use part, that's another Vietnam stereotype, I guess. So you saw some of it on the base camps.
Marijuana, nothing else. And in fact, I tried it too when I would come back from the rear. I never smoked out there in the field. I was always too paranoid, right? Even back when I was in the rear, I said, but I don't know how these guys would do that, but I never saw any of that hard stuff. Everybody's talking about that. I said, I never even heard of marijuana until I got over there. I didn't know what it was, and I tried it one time. I said, holy crap. But never.
Yeah. And then did you ever get much of a chance to go into areas that had a large civilian population, or were you usually kind of on bases? And
The only time I did that was like in country R&R when we were coming back from somewhere,
And did you see much when you were actually in the areas that you were operating? Were there civilians around, or was it largely depopulated?
Depends on where we were pulling a patrol. Sometimes we'd go through a little village. And there was pretty good sized villages. I mean, the kids would come running out trying to sell you Coke and stuff like that. And sometimes there was, it had to pull some guard around like a bridge. I can't remember where the hell that bridge was, but across the river. This is down by Way, I think. And kids would come in around in there. So there was, population. And sometimes in the rear area, they would hire some civilians to fill sandbags and sometimes cook and clean and, certain things. But
What sort of impression did you have of the Vietnamese people themselves at that point?
I liked them, except for the bad ones.
Yeah, the ones trying to kill you.
Yeah. I enjoyed them. To this day, I know some Vietnamese guy that flew an airplane. He's a Vietnamese officer. And no, I always, I didn't have any, problems with it, unless they were trying to kill me, then took issue with it.
And then while you were there, did you have any Vietnamese interpreters or scouts or things like that with you?
Yeah, they had them. If we got a prisoner or something like that. But most of the time, we didn't have any, once in a while, we didn't have any up by Quezon at all. I don't remember any interpreters up there then. But when we were down like at Wonder Beach area, there was a couple around. We would catch some guys and then they would question them and sometimes beat the hell out of them, but I don't really remember, seeing too many interpreters at all.
Okay. All right. Now, when you think about the time that you spent in Vietnam, are there other particular things that kind of stand out in your memory that you haven't brought into the story yet?
Such as?
It can be, funny things or unusual things or things that just remind you of Vietnam or...
Well, there's a lot of things that remind me of Vietnam. I think probably the neatest thing I remember is the camaraderie that we had. I mean, you just lived with these guys. I mean, you were closer than close. Share canteens, you'd share sea rations, we'd make these sea rations, put it in basically in a helmet and mix all kinds of shit in there. And one guy, I went on R&R to Taiwan with him, Danny, I can't think of his last name, he's from Pomona, California. And once a month his mom would send him a small case of Tabasco sauce and some sardines. And he'd share them. And I remember, and to this day, I still enjoy a can of sardines with some hot sauce in it.
All right.
And sharing different, just cooking stuff and how you just make do with what you got. Making sea rations, which are terrible tasting, to try to come up good with stuff. Putting some of the jelly that came in certain things. Just, you know, you get these heat tablets, or sometimes you take the C4 out of the claymores, little ball, and get some hot, cook it right now. And I remember patrolling one time on the road, pulling security. They were going through checking for mines. Truck drivers there, and you try to steal a fire extinguisher from the truck, and put a couple beers in a sandbag and blow that to cool the beer down and stuff. And or trade them. They'd give them to you. They didn't give a crap. And you're screwing around if you get kind of in trouble or something. So, oh yeah, I gotta do. Probably gonna get in trouble for that. I remember saying, well, what are they gonna do? Send you to Vietnam? You know. So.
Now, when you get to the end of the enlistment, now you're coming back. Do you still have time left to serve after you get home?
I had 10 months to serve.
Okay. And did you have orders of that assignment before you left, or did they send that to you after you got home?
I think I got that at California.
Okay. All right. Now, talk about leaving Vietnam the second time.
Second time I was kind of bitter because, you know, you hear all that crap going on, this and that, and, you know, and I was only 19, and I come back with this guy, J.T. Holman, and that's when I did change my clothes. And to this day, I regret, we had a taxi driver. We taxied from, I guess, Fort Orta. I don't remember, but going across the bridge. And we had the driver stop, and I threw my medals over and I don't know why I did that. I guess it was, I don't know why. And I regret it ever since. And I still had that stuff here on my shirt that was in my bag, but my ribbons, I guess you would say. And I don't know why the hell I did that. And to this day, that pisses me off that I even did it, that I let these assholes get in my mind. And, but exactly, probably as soon as I let go of them, I regretted it. And to this day, I wish I had not done that. But then I think I got my orders there. And then I came home, and then I got married. No, I didn't get married then. I came home. I went to Fort Eustis, and which is my wife now. We hung out, and I took a weekend pass and went home and got married. And she came back down to Virginia with me, and stayed there for a while and lived off base, which was pretty cool. Lived next door to a guy, we lived in a trailer park. A guy was in the Navy. He was on a nuclear submarine. He was 6 months on, 6 months off. So kind of worked out just before I got out. He had to go for 6 months, but he was a pretty cool guy. And we did a little bit of traveling around when we were in Fort Eustis, and I kind of had pretty good duty. You know, they didn't want to F with me, you know, and because most of the guys that were in that thing that I was in, that 508, I was they made me what was it? CBR NCO.
And what does that mean?
Chemical, biological, and radiological.
Okay.
NCO. I says, oh, what do I got to do now? Well, you got to go take this class. I says, okay. You know, 10 months I got to play the game. So I went and took this class, and I say, okay, now your company, you're the head CBR NCO. I said, so what do I do? He says, well, you got to check all the gas masks. You got to make some guys go through the chamber. I said, go through the gas chamber now? I said, I'm not going in that damn thing. I did that in basic. Well, you got to. I said, okay, I got a good gas mask then. And had to do that whole thing, and I felt so bad. And there was this black guy, stuttered like crazy, is in that outfit there. And whenever he got excited, you couldn't understand nothing he said. And you're supposed to say your name, rank, and serial number. And he's in there, and I said, okay, guys, take your stuff off. And he starts stuttering. He couldn't get it out. And I said, get your ass out of here. And
So how did that drill work anyway? How does that play out? Do you have a bunch of recruits, you bring them into a room someplace, and then what?
yeah, they pop a bunch of CS in that room. It's not very big. I'd say maybe 12 by 12 or something. It's not a very big room, but it's like CS. I don't know if you ever had. That's burn the shit out of you. If you got any sweat on you, it burns your cheeks and the whole thing. And you're supposed to, I guess, go through that thing. And
Now, as the one who was running it, do you get to keep your gas mask
oh yeah,
on?
yeah. I kept that. I wouldn't do it otherwise, because it's hard to breathe. It burns your lungs. And,
Oops. This is why we had it. Okay. So that will just go back on. All right.
it burns your lungs. It's not pleasant. But they say you got to do it, so you know what you're doing to other people.
All right. Now, would you go in up to Washington, or because Fort Eustis is that Petersburg or Williamsburg or
Newport News.
Newport?
Kind of
Okay, Newport News. Okay, that area. Okay, so that's just pretty big kind of base area and so
Yeah.
forth for the Navy in particular. All right. And was that kind of a supply thing primarily, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
And all I know is a trucking company. We had
Yeah.
to make sure the trucks ran. And
Right.
But when I first got there, what was kind of cool is a bunch of us were in this room. There was a big barracks there, a lot of the guys, but all the sergeants and stuff, we had rooms, our own rooms, well, with another guy. And we watched the moon, landing on the moon, and Armstrong's speech and everything. And that was pretty cool. I remember that. Where were you on this day? I remember right where I was. And we did some travel. One of the guys had a girlfriend up by Virginia Beach. And we'd go up there now and then. And his mom, we'd go out crabbing, getting crabs. And she'd boil it, have big crab dinners. That was fun. Boil it in beer and stuff. It was good.
Yeah. Now, did the military make any effort to encourage you to re-up?
Oh,
or-
yeah.
okay.
They did. Yeah.
What would they offer you?
Another stripe. That was the big thing. And I said, well, I got 3. I don't really need another one. And then I asked him, I said, can you guarantee me? I actually considered it. But I asked, can you guarantee me I won't go to Vietnam again? And they said, we can't do that. So I said, no, I'm not going to do it then. If they would have guaranteed me that I didn't have to go there. They said, well, you won't have to go for a couple of years. But shit, the war is already 10 years old. I didn't know how long it's going to last. And so I said, nah.
Okay.
No.
So when do you actually get your discharge then?
May 16th, 15th or 16th. It's the day before May 16th. I went in on May 17th and got out on May 16th.
Okay.
And
That's 1970.
Yep.
And then what do you do after you're out?
well, I had a lot of issues. I was married, and I didn't know what the heck I was going to do, and I drank a lot. And for a long, long time, I drank and tried to make shit right, but it don't get right. And then, I found God, and it's kind of like a burden lifted off my shoulders. And that was probably 15 years after I got out. But I had good jobs, and I went to school, and I didn't finish school. I really never finished much of anything. Even I became a die maker, and I just couldn't stay in a shop. I had, in 20-some years, I was at 14 different shops. I don't know what the hell is wrong. But I enjoyed it, and to this day, I miss not working on it. But and just some things that just piss me off, and I just move on.
So what did you wind up doing then after that, once
I
you sorted
stayed
things out?
I went to school for a while, and then I owned a pizza place for about 9 years. Enjoyed it. I couldn't make no money, and family was getting bigger, and so then I got a job in tool and die. I was probably about 30, I guess, 35, something like that, and I stayed in that, and I made a decent living, and but I hit trouble. I don't know. I can't explain why, but I just went from job to job. But I always got a job in the tool and die trade, and I enjoyed it. Always enjoyed working with my hands. Now I'm retired. Still kind of dabbling in wood, and I like remodeling and stuff. So.
Now, to look back at the time that you spent in the service, I mean, how do you think that affected you, positively or negatively?
I think it's positive. I think I had no direction before I went in. There was a lot of bad things that happened, but there was, in the same token, there was more good things that happened, I feel, in my case anyway. And I think it really saved me. I know a lot of the guys I used to hang around with, they got into drugs, 1 or 2 overdosed, and I thought, well, I encourage anybody. I think it should be mandatory. Everybody spend 2 years at least in the service or Peace Corps to get away before you go to college. Right after, boom, do it. You'll learn. I think the country would be better off now. You'd learn how to get along with other people. Any color, pink, black, anything. It's what you should do for the country. But I was happy I did. I would do it again.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in and sharing a story
Thank
today.
you. I enjoyed it.
I never seen such desolation. I think we drove for a mile and there wasn't a building hardly standing.
Nobody knew what was going on. They called the situation fluid, but fluid means that nobody knew anything.
It was different. If I had done something else, I don't know what I would have done.